Yeah, it's Paulie here with Mr. Snoots. So this is my last few hours in India. I head for the airport in a little bit. So it's been quite an adventure. It's been 6 weeks of wandering India north to south, east to west, and it's been an experience. I've learned a lot. I've seen amazing things. I've shown you a tiny percentage of things on this channel. Mostly things that I thought gamers might specifically be interested in. Forts, palaces, exploring ruins, but there's been a lot more here. There's been conversations with, monks of Shiva and strange naked mystics, literally. There's been all kinds of wacky experiences. So it's been a really interesting trip. I did find a locally made board game, which I'm going to review for you guys as soon as I've had a chance to read it, because it's huge. But that's the only evidence I've seen really of a local games industry at all. And even in this case, it might not be entirely local. It might be an international publication aimed at India. But find out as I review. India is worth visiting. I didn't find favourite places on earth the way I have in Thailand in particular and in Cambodia. I think it's because, despite anything you might have heard from mystic yo-yos, there's very little peace here in India. There's a lot of activity and a lot of squalor. Nigh intolerable squalor, I have to say. The north was difficult. I'm very glad that I travelled through Rajasthan. That's the northern western area, sort of from Delhi, reaching across towards the Pakistan border. It's desert, it's dramatic fortresses, it's amazing palaces perched on pinnacles and on islands in the middle of lakes, and it's dramatic. Seeing those forts in particular was a delight. I would recommend it to anyone that wants to. Anyone of our sort with a historical bent. Those are the areas that you'll like, but they are the areas I enjoyed travelling the least. They were squalid and they were dangerous. If you're a woman, do not travel India alone. Period. And by that I mean, if you're in a hotel, do not nip out of the front door to go and buy a bottle of water at the nearby store alone, ever, under any circumstances. And this goes triple if you're a trans woman. The culture amongst young men in India is incredibly toxic, and they have an active rape culture that everyone could just give a toss about. I made them give a toss about it by tossing one of them into orbit. So, my honest advice there. But I can certainly, if anyone's ever travelling, I can certainly point out some real highlight spots to find. The south has been gentler, as we Commonwealth sorts say, way more pucker. Not quite the same violent vibe as the north, so you don't feel as if you literally have to be looking for attack any given moment. I'm not joking about that. Way more beachy kind of holiday places, as you can see. Has a very different culture. The South always has. It was kind of interesting to see the whole state of Kerala is communist and therefore runs enormously better than anyone else in India. It has public amenities and it has beautifully upkept schools, and it has public transport networks and all the things that were missing elsewhere. It's very green, is way more humid than the north, so that can make travelling uncomfortable. It didn't have the spectacular sights that the north has, with the one staggering exception: Hampi. If you go to only one place in India, Hampi. The nearest international airport is Bangalore, and you would have to get minibus across from there, but you could happily spend 4 or 5 days just in Hampi. The city ruins are titanic. I took you through just a few of them on this channel, but as I said in those videos, there's like 1,500 sites like the ones that I visited in the area. It was an entire massive valley civilization, and I visited palaces and underground passages and temples and tombs and bathhouses and entire palace complexes, but there are more of those out there, way more of those out there. So Hampi is not to be missed. That is it, and it was the most beautiful terrain that I saw in all of India. So that made the south worthwhile all by itself. Although some of the little beach stops down in the south were needed after going to the north, because the north was actually very, very, very stressful to travel. So turning up in the Kerala area and just like going to a beach place where there was just kind of little restaurants and you could just sit in a cafe for a day was invaluable. And as such, if you are traveling India, put that into your itinerary. So anyway, we learned a lot. It's been a time of sort of reflection for me as well. It's time of sort of starting over. For those of you who didn't know, I've just started HRT like the week that I left to come here. So there's been some physical adventures while I'm here. But this has been a very worthwhile trip. This is going to feature very strongly in my world design for games and for novels, because I got to take a very close look at a living, face it, primitive world, and the nuts and bolts that exist when essentially technology is stripped away. How things are cleaned, how laundry is done, how people bathe, how people make stuff, how people transport stuff, these things that vanish. They're not in books. You won't find them in novels, you won't find them in people's like D&D settings and so on. The background that makes a place function is also what gives it its flavour and character. And seeing religion here has also been interesting, seeing how inculcated it is into every aspect of life. It's not someone is like separating their religious activity from their daily activity. It's all kind of interwound in, which is, face it, very, very Bronze and Iron Age. It survived here, so that was worth seeing as well. And also looking at the interesting ways history's been rewritten to meet the narrative of the larger states as they appeared, where everyone's gods are suddenly seized and made part of your gods. So, Shiva just gets bigger, Vishnu just gets bigger. Oh, your god? Oh, you're just an aspect of those. So, which is actually sort of how people have consumed smaller states over the centuries. Nothing to be prepared for is this. You'll probably catch a cold. Everyone did. Everyone in my group did. Oh, by the way, I started off in a group of 16 travellers because I went with a tour. As of last night, I am the last one of that group that did not end up having to go to hospital at some stage during the trip. We had people with dysentery, and I mean, that's not, oh, I've got, a sick tummy. That is hospitalised for days on drips and so forth because of actual dysentery. Everyone else, it was basically stomach problems, of course, bowel problems, of course. The place is filthy. Eye infections, skin infections, urinary tract infections. They got the lot. My personal medical kind of security is very high. My fellow travellers, not so much. Hey, let's try the samosas at this at this bus stop eatery in the middle of nowhere. I'm I'm sure they haven't been, you know, made by some guy who hasn't washed his hands in 4 days, and I'm sure they haven't sat here in the hot sun fermenting away while the flies walk over them. Let's try. Gastric roulette is not a game you want to play, particularly not in India, where the toilets, if you've ever seen the movie The Mummy 2, the toilet in the train is not an exaggeration. That is an Indian public toilet. Yeah, so I am the last medical survivor anyway, and that's because, you know, thank you hand wash, and thank you not being an idiot. Basically, thank you for being a D&D player. Decide where the traps are and avoid them, you know. As role-playing gamers, that's one of our essential skills. So anyway, look, it's been a huge journey. I've learned a lot. I've made friends here. I've seen spectacular sights, giant towering temples covered with painted sculptures, things that I couldn't show you because I could not film them when I went into giant temples. You're not allowed to film in or around a lot of the temples. So I walked through underground passages beneath Shiva temples. I got into Kali temples. I was invited in and got to talk with essentially, you know, local feminists who gather there. I got to see sort of local martial arts. I got to see strange traditional theatre, and yeah, explored through deserts, through swamps, through waterways, climbed mountains, found ancient temples to monkey gods. It's been a ride. I kind of feel like I've been living a cool D&D adventure. So anyway, it's been a great trip. I am so tired I am going to sleep for about 4 or 5 days to somehow recover from my quote-unquote holiday. So anyway, it's been a ride. Mr. Schnoots has been with me every single step of the way. Never leaving my side. My buddy, you're never alone when you're traveling with an elephant. So for those of you who saw the little snippets of bits that I kind of kludged together just to try and, you know, show you the cool stuff I was seeing, you know, thanks for watching those. I'll be back to my normal kind of presentations on this channel real soon. There might be a couple of days break while I lie flat on my back and stare at a ceiling for a while. But anyway, this is Schnoots and I, signing off from India. Much love to all you guys. Keep gaming, keep adventuring, and who knows, maybe I'll see you out here in the world someday. Alright, Mr. Schnoots wants to press the button and make this trip a wrap. You ready? Okay, let's go home, buddy. Okay, bye!